And we are live, Leadership from the Heart. My name is Renee Funk in Orlando, Florida, and I'm here today once again with my fearless friend and amazing leader in the real estate industry, Elizabeth Riley. Hi, friend.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm giddy today
Yeah.
because of the special guest we have. Giddy. Let's talk a little bit about, okay, you
Girl
know
power.
how when we're going to have, it is girl power. We're going to
Girl
have a
power
guest
day.
on and, we do some reading and we get to know a little bit about the behind the scenes of our guest. I did that about Martha Krejci, but here's the thing. I didn't rewrite anything. Literally, I'm going to read you your bio from your website because it's badass. Mama, wife, and lover of life first, CEO second. Martha Krejci is a high vibing mama, wife, life coach, and business growth strategist. Boom.
You know
Well,
what's so amazing about that is think about how people's bios, it just goes on and on and on and on. Martha's like, this is who I am, love it or leave it. And it's powerful, short and sweet and to the point. It's awesome.
Yes. I
welcome,
love that.
Martha.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am so excited.
We're thrilled to have you. And I really did. I was reading some and I thought, you don't rewrite that. I mean, oh my goodness, you've been on Fox News, ABC News, Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine. You've just recently, I believe, started a show on in Tampa, WFLA, Make Money with Martha.
Mhm. Yeah.
Tell us more, Martha Krejci.
Tell you more about which.
All of it.
All of it.
All
We
of
have
it.
a lot to
Yeah.
unpack here. It's like,
Oh.
who is Martha is like the biggest question we could answer. It's probably the only question we have to ask because we have more content with just that one question. But tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah. Well, who I am at my core is just somebody that wants to make sure that everybody understands that they can have the life that they want in not any sort of fluffy way and not any rah cheerleading, let me get you excited but not show you how to do things kind of way. I want at the bottom of everything, my husband and I share a goal of wanting to put families back together again. And so when we reverse engineer wanting to put families back together again, we're like, well, how do we get mom, dad spending time with the kids, right? Like doing this thing that we used to do that was working for a while. And then it kind of fell apart. And now we're starting to see the fallout of 30, 40 years removed of what happens to the family whenever it sort of dissipates, really, right? And so when we reverse engineered that, we're like, well, gosh, we make a good amount of money from home. And so we decided to just teach other families how to do that. So really what we do is we just teach people what we do ourselves every single day. And it just shows them how to be able to create sustainable income from home. So that's our thing. That's my thing.
That's huge. There's so much in that. I mean, even what you just said, because even in the last few years, we've seen what's happened with families, right? Lots of stress, lots of anxiety, lots of fear.
Yeah.
And for you to be so intentional in what you're doing to help that core, help that family, the unity is powerful, and it's going to show itself in future days, weeks, months, years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we really hit a boiling point in the last couple of years. And I don't know that enough people are really addressing the low grade trauma we're experiencing on a daily basis right now. Just in the last 2 years, it's like it is continuing chronic trauma that's happening to people. And so that is expressing itself through our children in a way that we should really be concerned about. There's kids experiencing all sorts of things, but you see them in a record-breaking number taking their own lives. There's things that are happening, and I don't mean to bring us down right away, but it's the thing that needs to be talked about. This stuff is happening, in our opinion, when Mike and I talk to each other, my husband and I, when we talk to each other, what we believe is that really it's not, I'm not putting blame on anybody. There's no, I mean, if we're seeking to blame, then we're not seeking a solution, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever we look at a solution, we look at the solution as being, okay, well, if mom and dad can spend more time with the kid, if the kid can feel seen and heard, if we can now have relationships with our families again, what does that look like? What is that like? What does the curve look like? Because we're at a hockey stick moment right now for some really terrible things happening with our kids. And so what does it look like? Is this going to make things better if we do this? And so that's where we're doubled down, and that's why.
Elizabeth and I talk a lot about in business about how entrepreneurs and those that are in the real estate industry, you know, both Elizabeth and I are in real estate, sometimes get put into a box that there's only one way, or there's one path, or there's one way to lean into what success can look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reminds me of, I've already shared, I stalk you on social media. And recently you were talking about the narrative of we go to school, we go to college, we get the job, we retire happily ever after. It's one box. And one of the things that I'd love for you to share a little bit about is, how are we breaking out of that box, and how do we help bring families back together with flexibility and still achieve a version of what success looks like to the family?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think let's just say kick rocks to the box altogether. Like, let's burn the box. Because the box only serves one group of people, and it's not us.
Right.
And so what I really like to work with people on and help people with is to see, okay, what have you been through in your own life, right? And then picking a piece of something that you've been through in your own life and being able to serve those people. So, and I won't get too far into it because this isn't a workshop or anything, but basically you choose, like, you see your whole life, you think of different things that you've been through that you really just needed a guide. You needed somebody to grab your hand and say, hey, I got you. It was those times where you were, up until 2 or 3 in the morning on Google, trying to research, how do I do this thing? I'm stuck. I'm paralyzed. We have many of these different points in our life. And sometimes you're not on Google and you're just like kind of wallowing in it because you can't get through it on your own and you're having a rough time. And so what I tell people to do is to make like a timeline of their life, and then to put little hash marks for every one of those times where their back was against the wall, right? And then to go up like essentially 30,000 feet figuratively and look at all of these hash marks and then choose one of them. And the one that you choose is the one that you're going to serve. And so now when we come back to the box that really shouldn't exist anyway, to break free of the box is to really ignore the box and instead focus on serving people that live in the space that you used to be. And so to be able to be specific about that, you choose one of those hash marks. So for me, my hash mark that I chose is me sitting in a carpeted cubicle, smelled like the 60s. And I got a video of my daughter taking her very first steps. And so for me, that woman is who I serve. I serve the woman who maybe she didn't receive the video, but she's scared to death of it. She's scared that that's going to be a thing, right? And so that's the person that I serve. So whenever we're talking about the flexibility of kind of choosing our own narrative or creating and writing our own story, so to speak, really it's about determining who in life do I want to serve? Who do I want to be of service to? Who do I want to assist? Who do I want to help make better? Because I know how to get to the other side, because obviously I did, And so who is that person? And then if you want to create income streams around that and all of that, you can do that. Or if you just want to feel good about your life, you can just, live in service to those people and still just feel good about your life. But there's obviously many, many ways to be able to create income around that as well. So then again, with the narrative, you don't have to work your 40, 60, 80 hour a week job if you choose not to, because it's not necessary anymore.
Wow.
That was long-winded.
No.
Sorry.
No, and
That's
I'm processing what you're saying too, because I'm thinking it from the standpoint of the community in which we surround ourselves with and among is going to be a critical component to that, to find our own inner strengths and confidence to lean into passions like in the way that you're describing, Martha.
Yes. So that's, I love this topic. This is, I mean, this is the Jim Rohn thing. You are the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And this is like a very, very, this is where you allow people in your world that speak life over you, is what I call it, instead of death. Because people will do one of 2 things. They'll speak life over you or they'll speak death over you. And what I mean by speaking life over you is, for my husband, I used to be a raging alcoholic. I'm totally open about it. I had a very bad problem. That's why I don't drink anymore. I have no problem with people that do drink. It does not play well with me. And so I was in a really bad way whenever Mike met me. And I was, really, like, I lived in somebody's basement. It was not pretty. And Mike used to say things to me like, you are brilliant. Like, you're smarter than you know. Like, I can't believe you know these things. Like, how do you know this? And he would keep saying this stuff to me. And at first I was like, okay, dude, like, what are you getting at? Right. And eventually he was so persistent with it that I started to see it. And so I guess what I'm trying to illustrate here is, you will either, and there's a story to go along with this too, and I can tell it about an actual class that it happened to, an elementary school class, but you will either rise or fall to people's expectations of you. And so when people speak life over you, they're speaking in expectation of your greatness, right? And to be surrounded by people that, not just in a one-sided way where they just speak life to you, like, yes, men, like, just tell me I'm great all the time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying being truthful, but having people around you that see the good, and not just in you, but see the good in each other, and that cheer each other on. And really, like, that is a community that people need to be in so they can experience that type of growth. Because if you're not in a community like that, then you can't help but be in a community that is dying, that is like, they're okay with not enough. They're okay with not having impact in the world, or they're okay with just selling themselves short, like, they're okay with that. And whenever you're hanging around people that are okay with that, the norm is to be okay with that. And it's very hard to become to live inside your own greatness whenever you're hanging around people that it's like crabs in a bucket. They're not gonna stand for it, really.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up, because I talk about this a lot lately. I've been speaking around as well. And I talk about your board of directors, right? Like, who are you surrounded by now? Just like you're saying, you want people that are going to lift you up, but you want those people that are also going to speak the truth, right? And hold you accountable, and let you know when you're stepping out of line and saying, that's not you. That's not who you are. Because sometimes, to your point, we get complacent. We're around the norm so much, we start looking like the norm, acting like the norm, being the norm, when it's really not who we are. And so I think we have to give ourselves permission to allow those people around us to change.
Yes.
I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, 1 year ago, right? I'm not the same person I was. I don't need the same people that are taking my energy, because I have big things. I have big goals. I have big dreams. I want to pour into others. And Renee knows this. I always say, we want to lift others as we climb. If you have people pulling you down, you're definitely not going to climb, and you're definitely not going to be able to lift others up as you climb. Right. And so having that board of directors around you, that, yes, they're your cheerleaders at all times. They are always going to be there, but they're also going to speak truth into you when you need to be told that you're not acting in character. You're not acting in, in the way that they know who you are to your core. And we have to give each other grace about that too, because we're still all growing and building. And so I love what you're saying, that community is huge. And it's almost like those friendships die, and you have to grieve that. Yeah. You have to grieve that while you're growing, part of you is dying off. It's kind of like, I'm not reptile person, but shedding the old skin, right? Thank God.
We know what's in your shower, Riley.
Snake shit. But you know what I mean? So it's like shedding that skin, and it's like, oh, that's what I have to do to get here. And it can be painful. It's uncomfortable, but oh my gosh, on the other side of it, and you have those people cheering you on and supporting you. Golly, it's, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I love that.
It's also focusing on those that are around us. Is there an appropriate balance of people who have a focus on the amount of deposits that are being put into the middle of the table, the proverbial table? Or is it more withdrawals? And at any given point, shouldn't we be surrounding ourselves with those that have that North Star focus of, we want to put more deposits in than withdraws? Because that's how we're going to do what you both are mentioning, is the importance of what's next. How can we continue to be the greatest version of ourselves?
Yes. What I've found is as you grow and whatever, you start moving into different rooms, and the rooms hopefully are getting higher and higher quality. And the high quality rooms that I'm in these days, it's all give. And from like the me of 15 years ago that couldn't see any of this, right, would have assumed that you get into rooms with extremely wealthy people and blah, 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 and that it would be take, that they're more like, sort of like beasts. I don't know. But what I'm realizing is that you get into these rooms with extremely powerful and wealthy people, and it's all give. It's all, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? What can I do for you? With no expectation of anything in return. It's literally just the question, what can I do for you? Isn't that like that? It's amazing, because those are the extremely successful people, and that's how they got there.
Yeah, success leaves clues in so many different ways. And I'm an observer a lot of those times. And when we're in those rooms, Renee and we're fortunate to be in a number of those different rooms, whether they're wealthy or highly educated or whatever the room is, where we can elevate to their level. But when you observe and you watch those people, they got there very differently than taking, right? And I think what they recognize and what they realize, and as leaders, we do the same thing. It's, how much can I give? You can't outgive a giver, right? You can't just outgive anybody. And if you're giving, you're going to receive far more than somebody's going to take. And it's one of those things where you think about how much energy it takes to be happy versus how much energy it takes to be negative, right? And people would always look and say, oh my gosh, you're so happy. It's like, because it takes so much energy to be negative. I'd rather see the opportunity and the positive and what's on the other side. That's just a better place and a better room and a better environment we all want to be in. But if you watch people and you observe, again, success leaves clues. And that doesn't necessarily mean financial, right? It means family unities. It means all sorts of things. Success is different for the three of us on this screen, right? But if you watch those people around you, golly, you can learn from every single environment that you put yourself into.
Yeah. 100%.
Don't you think that is a focus where any one of us can lean into, when I enter a room, to earn my spot in the room, to ask myself, what can I contribute? How many deposits can I contribute into this room to earn and solidify being in the room?
Yeah. I think it's fantastic. I think as business people, let's consider the world a stage. Let's consider the world a room. And every single place that we go to, every interaction that we have, right? And I know that you're a believer of this as well, Renee, but everywhere that we go, we should always, in my opinion, be contributing in some way. Like how do we leave it better? And and it's not even just the smile, although a smile is good. But it's also, what can I do to help this business person, right? And not ask for anything in return. Can I post about this business? I know you talked about that at a thing that I was at. You post, like if you were at this business, if it's a mom and pop shop, right? We know that they're struggling. So why don't we just take a selfie of ourselves? We have an audience. Let's all of us just stop thinking we don't have an audience for a minute, because everybody has an audience. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
You have an audience, whether they're vocal or not, doesn't matter. People are watching you.
Yep.
And so let's go ahead and do the good thing, which is to take a selfie and say, oh my gosh, I just got the best ice cream here. It was amazing. The service was awesome. Like, where do you even get good service anymore? Like, really just getting into what that post would look like, and then helping that business out. And it's kind of like this concept of running for mayor, but really it's being good. And the more that we do that, the more that we give people a file for what that looks like, because we as humans are so monkey see, monkey do, right? And when we give people a file for what that looks like, it gives them permission. We use that permission word again, to do it themselves. And they can think, oh, well, maybe I'm going to do that, and then you create this wave. And then it's just a very intentional way to leave deposits everywhere that you're going. And those deposits then just move forth in that person's life too. Like, it's just a cool thing. It's cool.
I love the word intentional. That is such a powerful word in so many ways. And I know Renee and I talk about it a lot too. And I love that you use the word, because that is true. If somebody just really thinks about what that means in any moment that they're in, it's like, what can I intentionally do in this moment to help somebody else, right? To better myself, to better somebody else. It's just, it doesn't take a whole lot.
Right. Yeah.
There's a moment Martha's referring to. We were at a meeting here in Orlando, and we were talking about real estate agents receiving reviews on, name the platform, right? It doesn't matter. We all know how impactful reviews can be. And in this meeting, we decided to flip the switch and say, well, instead of seeking reviews, the question is, how many positive reviews have we left?
Yep.
And when we continue to focus on that, which we do to this day, how many positive reviews have we left as a consumer? This amazing thing comes to the forefront, which is, oh my gosh, our reviews are starting to climb. See, focus on deposits rather than withdrawals.
Yes. It's cool, because our culture and our society is so driven on what can you do for me, that it's this very cool, sticking out like a sore thumb good whenever we're saying, well, what can I do for you? Like, I just want to give back. I just want to do. And all of a sudden you look like the person that is like, people have cognitive dissonance around the concept of you wanting to give instead of asking for something in return. Like, it's just, you, like I said, you stick out like a sore thumb in the best way possible. It's just, it's good human stuff. It's good business stuff. It was, in my opinion, it was never about business. Like, for me anyway, it's always about being a good human. And when you're a good human, naturally, you're going to be good at business.
Yeah.
That's true. So talk a little bit about what the home-based revolution is for you.
It has been everything for me. Home-based revolution actually came about right after the stuff happened a couple of years ago. And Mike and I looked at each other, and we had just gotten back from Alberta, Canada. I spoke in Alberta. We barely made it through the border before things got shut down. And we were watching the news, and kind of just like everybody else, in this disbelief of what's happening. Like, is this real? Do I need to go get all my cash out of the bank? Like, what? It was just so many weird things going on. And then I remember we saw the news one night, and there was some sort of segment on people losing their jobs. And I hadn't even thought about it. But then when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, people are literally losing their jobs, not getting paid. There's no way for them to be getting paid right now for who knows how long. And there's kids at home with them. Like, what are these families going to do? And we just looked at each other and we're like, we have to make something. And so we made we ended up like, so what we do is like, we have multiple income streams from home, utilizing stuff we already know in 5 to 10 hours a week. And so we were like, well, we're already doing this. We need to teach people how to do it. And so that's where home-based revolution actually came from. That's what that is we were like, this whole thing that is happening to people in a active and passive way, like they can't help it. Like they're not in control of their lives right now. And there are hungry families and kids, and somebody has to do something. If nobody does something, that's on us. Like this is something we have to do. And so that's where home-based revolution came from. So
I love the way that you were so quick to pivot, right? Like the pivot is amazing. And it's another identifier that we look at a leader like you, Martha, and you go, okay, there was a challenge. You were faced with some uncertainty. Yep. You could have crippled in fear, rather you got into action.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's interesting to see though, how people, hindsight's 2020, right? Now we can look back and see there was a lot of challenges, but out of those challenges, look at all the good that came out of it. Right. And so to that point, you guys jumped into action. All these different people jumped in action to make things better. Mm-hmm. And you're right, Renee, you could have cowered in fear. It was a fearful time for so many. I think all of us have experienced fear in different ways, but it's, what do you do with that fear? Some people cower back. Some people get into action. They have to do something, right? It's just kind of your personality. I was lucky to go to this tactical training camp once, and it would show you in these different scenarios, training scenarios. And I didn't even know how I would react in some situations. And we would be faced with all sorts of different things, right? But it was interesting, and it made us a stronger person, saying, okay, I am stronger than I thought I was. In this kind of scenario, this is what I would do. I have power to help other people to do other great things. I love, to Renee's point, I love that you guys said, well, we have to do something. What can we do? And you made it happen.
Yeah. It was just and that goes back to good humans in good business. Yeah. Is because our finger was on the pulse of what's happening to families. Yeah. And so we could see it and we could feel what was going on. And we're like, that not on our watch, not while we know what we know. That's not going to happen. And so that's another, like, if there are people, I know we're on LinkedIn right now. So for the people that are watching or that watch it later on, think about where you're at in business and make sure that you're listening, or your finger is on the pulse of who your people are, and that you're always bobbing and weaving, is the way I like to describe it, with what they're experiencing, not what you're experiencing, because that doesn't matter to them at all. What are they experiencing? What problems are they having? What's good that's going on, right? What can you really lean into that's going on good in their life? But especially with the problems, that's what people start researching and trying to figure out. And if you're a solution for them, make sure you're seen as the solution for them, so you can double down on precisely the thing that they're looking for. There's no better business person in the world than the person that actually cares about their people and chooses to show up for them in the way that they're searching for. If that makes sense. A little bit obscure.
Completely.
How have the last 2 years changed? You were in that moment, you created a business, you definitely satisfied and fulfilled a need to serve, to help. How's it changed over the last couple of years, Martha?
Yeah, I've just been given a lot more opportunities. So I feel blessed at this point, because I'm not really sweating business so much. And now I get to show up in places where I can get creative about how to best serve my people, because my people are still my people. They're always going to be my people. My people are, like I said, the mom that's sitting in corporate America that feels like she's missing everything. Or the mom that's scared. Maybe she's had a kid that had a situation, and maybe she's scared to death the fact that she even has to go to work and be away. Like there are things that are happening in this world that, but she is my person, right? And so I am always and forever focused on her and making sure she has what she needs to be able to move forward in a way that feels good to her, that feels safe. And so now I just get to be creative about how I do that, right? So, the creation of programs and the collaboration with different people. I'm joining EXP, right? And being able to show those women even what real estate, like what, coming into real estate can look like in a way that maybe they hadn't seen before, and sort of reframing what that looks like to them. And yeah, so it's really just, it allows me to, because I don't have the stress of finances. Now I just am allowed my creativity, which is beautiful, because now it's just, okay, creative solutions for this woman, because she's always my focus. I wake up thinking about her. Like, that's just, she's always my focus.
What can you share one tactical piece of advice that you're geeking out about right now?
Oh,
Just a little question, Martha, one thing.
Yeah, right. I know. My mind just went. I like, there's a few good ones right now.
You can share a few.
Okay. One is reels. We need to be doubling down on reels. If we're not doing reels, what are we even doing? And when I say reels, there's some reels that are doing really well right now. And then there are some that are kind of not. And the ones that are doing really well, especially from a professional standpoint. So again, we're on LinkedIn, so I'm going to honor the audience that we're here with right now. And so the reels that are doing well for professionals are the ones that I've been doing. So it's like you're talking to the camera, and then you've got the words that pop up. And then sometimes there's little emojis in there as well, but it's words that are popping up. A way to be able to know what to do a reel about, because that's where people get stuck. They're like, oh, sure, I'll do reels. The first stuck point is, how do I do a reel? And then the second stuck point is, how do I do this every day? What am I supposed to talk about, over and over again? And so what I would suggest is to determine what your pillars are in business. And your content pillars is what I'm referring to. I do content strategy a lot. Like, that's kind of my main deal. But so in developing what your content pillar is going to be, you think of who your person is. So you have a main type of person that you reach out to, or your main avatar, or whatever you want to call it. And then you think, okay, what's going on in their world, right? What's going on in their world? What are they understanding or starting to believe that they need, that then follows the path to what I have for them? Let me say it in a different way, just in case that one didn't make sense. A different way to say it would be to think of, okay, think of where they are in their journey. So typically, whenever we start to work with people, we want to look for people that are a few steps ahead of where we're at in the journey of what we help them do. Because as they start searching, we want them to find us in that content of their discovery. And so they'll start Googling things, and they'll start searching for things. We want them to find us there to latch on, because we can help them. And then we educate them about the things that we do and the things that they should be doing about these, the reason I have to be so obscure is because there's literally so many different types of businesses. So, but we catch them in the very beginning of the journey, create content around that, create pillars around that. And really, the pillars can be symptoms. And that sounds very medical, but it's not. You can have, like, if somebody's a gluten-free coach or something, or a gluten-free baker, then symptoms that somebody's searching for, if they're a gluten-free coach, symptoms that somebody's searching for could be like, why am I gaining weight and I can't lose weight? Well, you can create content around that, educating, illuminating why that is from a gluten-free standpoint. And that person is going to eventually start, if it makes sense to them, they're going to keep moving down the road with you. So does that make sense, where we create content around that? There's also, if you can identify in your, sorry, you guys just got me on something here.
Well, what you're saying is you're solving for a problem. You're not just adding fluff, right? You're putting out there, right? There's no fluff about you, but you're putting content out there that can solve for a problem.
Yep.
Solve for a challenge. Absolutely.
Solve
Yeah.
for a problem that they self-identify.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is sometimes we create problems because they're easy problems for us to answer, but they're not problems that people are self-identifying as having, so it doesn't matter.
True.
So what we want to do is we want to solve for problems they believe they have. And there's a trick. I'll do a hack in here if we want.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's do some hacks.
I'm taking notes, by the way.
I know, me too. I know.
I am.
I love this stuff. And so what you can do is you can go to Google. I wish I could share my screen. I can't. You can go to Google, and whatever the thing is for your content pillar, just choose one pillar, whatever the thing is. Maybe it's first-time home buyers if we're doing real estate, right? First-time home buyers, or first house or something like that. First-time home buyer is probably good. And then you're going to hit enter in Google, and then you're going to scroll down a bit, and then it's going to say people also look for, or people also search for, and it's going to give you other options and other pieces of content. And so that's literally what people are searching for on Google. Okay. Here's a little thing. If you create a YouTube video, Google owns YouTube. I think we all know that now. If you create a video on YouTube, which also another gold nugget here, if you're making a video on YouTube, make it between 5 and 12 minutes, with your sweet spot being 8. The head of YouTube has said 8 minutes is pretty much what people are watching videos for. You want people to watch most of your video. So if you make an 8-minute video, it's likely going to get watched. So there's that. But let me get back to what I was saying. Create a video on YouTube about just that question that you see, like with exactly those words, that question on YouTube, and then also make it into a blog post, which you can just throw the YouTube video. You can have, I think it's otter.ai will go through it and make it into an actual blog post, make it into, transcribe it into words. You make a blog post with that. You embed the YouTube video onto the blog post so they could watch the video or read the words, because there are 2 types of people out there. Yep. And our customers are both types of people. We need to make sure we give them the content in the way they want to receive it. And then Google is going to give you extra points because you are answering a question people are actually asking. And so Google is going to raise your website up on the search engines just simply for that reason. And then, of course, you're going to get some YouTube love. YouTube love takes a little bit longer, but still, when you get it, it's good.
Martha, I did ask you what you're geeking out about, and you make me almost want to do YouTube videos. Almost. I'm not sure.
They're so good.
Make sure everybody's following Martha on YouTube.
But I love how passionate you are. I mean, it's like how excited, we get so excited when we are asked a question. We're like, oh yeah, that's my jam. So
here's my lane. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Can we geek out on tactical for another moment or two. Can we go back to the content pillars?
Yes.
Tell us more. Content pillars. So you shared one, right? Diagnosing, being mindful of coming from a solution-oriented video and content provider. But tell us more about content pillars.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we can't talk about content pillars until we talk about niche. So I'm not going to go into niche. We'll stay on content pillars. But for people that are watching, you need to know your niche and you need to know your avatar before we can go into pillars, or else they're not pillars around anything. You can't make a pillar if you don't know who you're talking to. And so what we have to think of is who our person is, right? And so what's going on in their life when they're searching, like when they're starting to look for us, what else is going on in their life? And so maybe somebody who's like a first-time home buyer, I'll just kind of stay on this one. Maybe somebody who's a first-time home buyer, they're researching mortgages. Okay. So maybe that's a content pillar, is really just behind the scenes stuff on mortgages. And that is a very red ocean thing whenever we're talking about real estate agents, right? Talking about mortgages, it's like, well, it happens all the time. So be different. So talk about it in a different way. And when I say red ocean, just in case people didn't catch that, there's a book called Blue Ocean Strategy that if you have not read that, you absolutely need to read that book. It's a fantastic business book, but really I'll just break it down into a sentence. And red ocean is where kind of like all the sharks are feeding on each other because everybody's competing for the same person the same way. And it's like just the water is filled with blood. Whereas we can back out of that, move over into blue ocean. And blue ocean is when you're in a lane all by yourself and you are doing things your way. You have set yourself apart in the market. There's nobody competing with you because they're not you. And there's just some cool stuff around that. Read the book. But so far as content pillars are concerned, we have to think of who our person is. And then we think, okay, what are the other things they're looking for right now? So if our person is a first-time home buyer, okay, cool. That's one layer of a demographic. What else is going on? So are they a younger family? Are they a family with one kid? Are they a family? Like what's the main thing? Because you really want to get specific, because if it's a family with a 5-year-old, they're probably starting to look at schools. If it's a family that is that has babies, they're looking for like ways to things to do as a young family. So things to do with babies in the area. There's different things that you really key into your person, and when you do that, you are the person for them. Period. Because you speak, everything that you do is about them. Everything that you do is for them. And does that answer your question a little bit more about content pillars without me going full geek on it?
It does. And if we go back to what you shared earlier, you said your person is the female, the potential mom who might be in a cubicle, who is worried about missing out on those first steps you used as an example.
Yeah.
You have clearly identified. You also said that you wake up thinking about her.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And that is impactful. And I hope all of those that are watching now and watch the replay, that we all have a lot to learn by that, right? Is who are we here to serve? And are we waking up thinking about that avatar, that person, so that we can continue to be a better version of the service we provide?
Absolutely. It's simply caring about that changes your entire business. Simply caring about it. It turns your business from a business into a mission, quite frankly. And some people need that. There are a lot of very good people in the world that have created or started business, but they find themselves to be unsuccessful in business because they just want to give stuff away. As we all know these people, and God bless them, they're the best people ever. But when you turn your business into a mission of sorts, and so you've got that mission side of it where you're just driving for their success, it makes it okay to monetize it on the back end. It makes it all right. And so there's that's a whole nother talk for another time.
We're having you back to have that talk too.
Yeah, lots of talks.
So Martha, just a tiny question. What does financial freedom mean to you?
It means no stress. It means do what you want to do when you want to do it. Financial freedom is the ultimate freedom, in my opinion. The only chains I ever see on people are from finances. It's either from their mind or it's from finances. And typically when you've hit the point of financial freedom, the mind freedom is what got you there. And so you don't have to worry about that. So once you have the financial freedom, you're just shackle free and there's no stress. You move about on mission. You move about doing things, doing good stuff in the world. My belief and what I've seen and what I've experienced is that all you have to make really is like 20% more than what you spend every month in order to feel that freedom, in order to feel that level of, okay, I'm good. And then an interesting thing starts to happen. And when you know that you're okay month over month over month over month, you move into a place of wanting to give back. I think every human does this. I don't think they all do it right now because they're not all in that position. But I think that whenever you get to that, eventually when you start making money, money is just money. It's just more money. And so then you move into a place of, okay, instead of feeding that money goblin, now I'm feeding that impact. Like I want to impact now. Like what I want to do something good. Like let's do some really cool stuff. And that's where I'm at this point.
Impact.
I was talking to, I'm on a little bit of a delay, it seems like on my end, but I was talking to our founder last week in New York, and we were talking about this topic. And he said, at some point, money's not going to bring you happiness. He said, at some point, you're going to have enough money that it's not going to be fulfilling to you. And it's what you do after that point, right? And to what you're saying, golly, we have the freedom to help people. We have the freedom to pour into other people. We have the freedom to do things anonymously. That's what I love doing, right? Where you can just kind of help without, it's not about the recognition. It's not about the applause, right? It's about, you've been blessed and given gifts in so many different ways. What can you do with those gifts? So it was kind of a reminder to me to money. They always say money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't buy happiness, all these different, these references to money, but it's very, very true. If you look at some of the very ultra wealthy celebs, everything that look from the outside in, that they have everything and then some, but then you really peel back the layers and see how miserable they are, right? Social media is so great at making us look perfect. Our lives are great, right? But then you start hearing the stories and you realize, oh my gosh, what does financial freedom look like? It doesn't have to be to your point, the 20%, I've not heard that before, but you're right. It's not this excessive amount. I think time freedom and financial freedom are the two biggest things that we can strive for. And then it allows us to be freer with our gifts for others.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Whenever people experience that for the first time, you have no idea how good it's going to feel. But when you experience the act of being able to give back in a substantial way, man. Well, I actually, last night, so we go to Awana, and it was the last night of Awana at church last night.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was the store. So they get Awana bucks for doing their verses and bringing their Bibles and stuff. And so the last night there's the store where you can go and get all these toys and stuff, and it's freaking chaos. But my anxiety went up, and I'm like, oh, here we go. But Nora went in, my daughter went in, and I was along with her, and there were some Squishmallows, which are these big squishy toys, and or stuffed animals. And she loves them, like has a ridiculous amount of them. And so she went in and she was like, ooh, Squishmallows. And there was a little kid looking at a frog one. And I think she said, like, are you going to get this? And he goes, no. And so she grabbed it, and then she bought it with her 20 Awana bucks. And then she got some other things. And then we went and sat down, and she said to me, Mommy, and it was weird. She looked at me and she's like, Mommy, that boy was looking at the frog, and then I bought it. And I was like, okay, baby. And she said, I feel bad. And I said, well, what would make you feel better? And she's like, I don't know. And I said, would like going and giving him the frog make you feel good? And she said, yes. Her eyes lit up. Here's the thing. The act of giving made her eyes light up more than getting the toy in the first place. Yeah. And so she said, he just walked out the door, he's gone. And I said, well, it doesn't mean he's gone. And so we went out there and we looked for him and we found him. And then Nora walked over and said, do you want this frog? And he said, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, have this frog. And he took it and he hugged it. And she just looked at me and gave me the biggest smile. And I was like, baby, I am so proud of you. But more than that, I just love your heart, right? Yeah. And it's that give back. Like that was just a frog, right? Just frog. But there's something that happens to us as people when we can give back and impact somebody else in a positive way. It does so much for us. So listen, I will try to make all the money in the world to be able to give back as much as I possibly can to continue that trajectory, right? Like it's just the coolest thing.
The giving is so much more for some of us. For me, I'm the same way. And I think Renee probably is too. The giving is so much more impactful to our soul than the receiving.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'll have people send me things. I'm like, oh, that's really, really nice. But it doesn't affect me like it does when I'm able to give somebody. But then I have to think, I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's how they're feeling by giving me something or giving to others. Right. So it's that cascading effect out. But let's create more givers.
Yes.
More givers in our families, in our communities, in our tribes, in our circles, whatever. I mean, look at the world we're going to leave if we've created a world of givers.
Yeah.
Opposed to takers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. We have one really big last question for you, Martha.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, I know. It's the big one.
I mean, I could sit here and talk to Martha for like ever. I mean, we'll get cut off, but we definitely have to have you back because there's so much goodness we can dive into.
Oh my goodness. So grateful for you. What does leadership from the heart mean to you, Martha?
The only kind of leadership that should ever exist. Leadership from the heart to me means it's kind of like, have you guys seen the movie Avatar?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so the I see you part, like where my soul, who I am, sees you. I think leadership from the heart is that. I think it's I and who I am, no ego attached, no agenda, no whatever. See you and all that you are, and have like open, honest, I mean, if it's one-on-one, have open, honest conversations about where do you want to go in life? Like, what feels good for you? What are you wanting for your family? What is your trajectory? Like, what are your dreams? Let's get you dreaming. And then leadership from the heart, I believe, is going to set a path for that, whether it stays within the realm of them serving you or not. And it's a human to human thing. And it rises above employment. I'll even say that.
I think that sums it up very, very well. You gave me chills, Martha. So we couldn't agree with you more.
Yay, I win.
I know that we're totally stalking you on every social media platform. You're everywhere. You're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're everywhere. But Martha, where can we find you and where would you like us following you?
Yeah.
Well, Instagram's good, but my website is withmartha.com. We made it easy and left my last name out. So withmartha.com is the website. That's a hub for everything. So you can see where my social media channels are there. You can see everything. And then YouTube, I think, is another great one. And if you want to see like more of my personal behind the scenes stuff, that's like my Facebook personal page. So you can just follow my Martha Krejci on Facebook, like my regular personal page. That's where I'm an oversharer. I'm a chronic oversharer. So I share way too much on there.
No. It's all good.
I don't think it's possible to share too much. It allows people to get to know who you are. And it's so weird because then they all feel like they know you and you're like, hi, I don't really know you, but you're an open book and we love that. So
yeah. Love it.
You're awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us on Leadership from the Heart. We appreciate you so, so much. Love seeing your continued growth and love seeing you cascade that throughout because we feel that in what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was the best.
Thank you.
Big hugs. Thank you so much for joining us on Leadership from the Heart. We will see you next month for more awesome conversations. Elizabeth Riley, it's always a pleasure to share time with you as well.
Always, my friend. Martha, thank you. And I'll see you guys next month.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.